Group meeting. So, very warm welcome to everyone for today's Dementia Support Group meeting. I'm Dr. Jayashree, the Director of Samvedna Senior Care, and we regularly hold these meetings to discuss various issues, help caregivers provide support for their loved ones with dementia, and also address different issues, challenges that they may be facing in providing care, and receive inputs from our guest speakers. And today it gives me great pleasure to invite Dr. Vijay Kumar. He's a consultant psychiatrist at Samvedna Senior Care. He's completed his KIMS Hubli and his DPM from the prestigious NIMHANS in Bangalore. And he's done his MRC Psych and MEd Psy from England. He's been a consultant and faculty with NHS and NIMHANS, and he has vast experience working in the area of geriatric care and specifically with dementia. He's also written numerous articles, publications, and he has authored books on dementia care. And I think it's going to be a very interesting discussion that we'll have today on a topic that's particularly important as we come to the year's end, on how to celebrate how to celebrate holidays and festivals with someone who's experiencing memory loss or who has dementia. So a very warm welcome to you, Dr. Vijay.
Thank you, Dr. Jayashree. Thank you, Archana, for inviting me. And this is it's my pleasure to be here and addressing the clients who are interested to learn and know and get educated about this aspect of dementia and cognitive impairment, and how in general during the festivals and holidays, how it can impact and things like that. So let me share my screen. This is only for short while. I won't take too long. Okay, so that's me. So these are the questions that I already received from Dr. Jayashree and from the clients who are interested to know about this. So I have to, because of this, these questions, I have to go through a little bit. I have to spend some time about dementia, then in which case. So could you please help us understand what dementia means? What are the factors which cause dementia? Is there a cure for dementia? What are the ways in which dementia could be treated? What are the challenges that caregivers face during festival season? What could be done to make festivals more inclusive for persons with cognitive impairment? So yeah, so am I audible? It's clear?
Yeah, thanks for the questions I've already received from people. And if you could take us through some of these, this will be really interesting for people who are joining in.
Yeah, so this is it's specifically Alzheimer's, related to Alzheimer's. The prevalence, if you look at prevalence, it's common in females. As the age progresses, the prevalence, the number of cases also increase. So they say that some statistics say that after 85, your chance of having dementia is 1:2. So many people may not have got it checked. So 1:2 means you're talking about either you're a patient or a caregiver. So that's something, it's very high. So we all need to know, and we need to gear up. This is an old figure. This is from 2017, so about 4 years back now. Then if there are 50 million cases worldwide, we have about 4.1 million cases of we're talking about dementia in general. 70% of these are Alzheimer's disease. So remember ABCD for Alzheimer's disease. So what is this ABCD? So I put it in this way: C for cognitive decline, which means memory and related function. So what is memory and related function? Now, whenever I have a task in hand, so I need to go and buy something, a milk, I need to know all the various aspects related to that. So I need to have enough money in my pocket, and I need to identify the currencies. I need to go, take a walk. I should know the route, which way I'm going, and what pace I'm going. And then I should not fall, because I need to stand on my 2 feet. Because if you're standing on 2 feet, then you need your brain to work. Otherwise you cannot stand. Nothing can stand in on 2 feet. It's the brain that makes you stand. So I need to, my brain, I need to walk. I need to know the speed. I should have balance. And then I walk. Then I reach that place. Then I speak. So I need to know what I need to speak. Then I give him the change, the currency, and then I buy my milk and then come back. So I need to know the route, which way I'm coming back. So if you imagine, so the amount of information and amount of cognitive processing going on just to go and buy a milk. So imagine, tell me the steps related to making a cup of tea. If I was asking this question to many of the caregivers and many of the patients, I won't say patients, many of the senior citizens, and invariably, it was difficult for them to remember and tell all the steps involved. There are various steps involved, which also involve measuring how much milk, measuring and knowing, identifying, and then increasing the heat, and and once it boils, at what time you need to put the milk, and all that, and how do you need to measure the sugar and everything. So there's a lot of information involved. So cognitive domains include orientation, so where I am and who, what is my surrounding and all that, and who are all around me. So that is orientation. Memory, attention, language, visuospatial, calculation, fluency, thinking. So these are all cognitive domains. So that C stands for cognitive decline. A for activities of daily living. So every morning we wake up and we brush our teeth, and then we shave, or do our hairs, and then take bath, and all that. That's various tasks involved. So washing face and combing hair, taking bath, putting on the dress. Such various tasks. And this is only just activities of daily living. There's something called as instrumental activities of daily living. Instrumental activities of daily living include bigger tasks like making a cup of tea, cooking. It's a skill, extra skill that one need to have. So B stands for behavioral and psychological symptoms related to dementia. Then D for distress in caregivers. So ABCD. Remember, ABCD. For layman term, forgetfulness, means everything as given above. Right. Okay. So let's move on. Okay, it's moving. Yeah. So I won't go into this delirium and dementia. I won't go into this. So Alzheimer's is umbrella term. Dementia is an umbrella term. Whenever we say dementia loosely, it's irreversible dementia. There are reversible causes of dementia, like depression, infection, medication related, hydrocephalus, so many other things. So that's reversible type. In the irreversible dementia, we have Alzheimer's, vascular, Lewy body dementia, Creutzfeldt-Jacobs disease, frontotemporal dementia, Huntington's, and Parkinson's disease. So of which most common is Alzheimer's disease. So my talk will be focused on Alzheimer's or mixed vascular and Alzheimer's disease whenever I'm referring to dementia here. So in the memory clinic, what we do is generally we take a history from the reliable family member. We do physical examination, then mental state examination, then cognitive test. We do various tests available and they're validated. And then we check their activities of daily living. We do their assessment, and then behavioral problems. And then we do tests, and then give a diagnosis, then counsel them, and then treatment. So diagnosis itself carries a lot of issues here. So if you put a diagnosis of dementia to somebody, whether they are capacitous, they can manage their capacity, they can manage their finances, whether they can sign a bank checkbook, or transfer do a will, or transfer money, or whatever. So, or get into any contract. So that it's questionable. So mere diagnosis of dementia doesn't mean anything. So that has to be separately assessed for each and every capacity assessment, capacity to do, or capability to do contracts. So I won't take much long because that's not the topic here. So investigations, we do several investigations. So we do follow a method where we diagnose. After all this, MRI scan, and then hearing loss is also considered as a reversible one of the reversible factors of dementia. So if you can improve hearing, some of the aspects of cognitive function can improve actually. So if we are in doubt, we can get neuropsychology assessment. That will take Dr. Jayashree can tell more about this. Then alcohol-related dementia. There was one case, at least I came across, that patient was having severe alcohol-related problems, and there's a nerve damage in the brain. And after a while, the patient improved, and then he was able to go home and live a normal life, basically. And people are into long-term use of sleeping pills. That can also affect their memory problem in the long term. So here, see, we look at these scans and we know what is going on here. So time zero. So if you look at this, there's something called as medial temporal lobe. There's shrinkage. The shrinkage is typical. You can also see the other parts of the brain. It's a section that you're taken like this, taken like this. And then you look at these areas in the brain. After a while, there's a shrinkage. So there's a method. What I'm trying to say is there's a method, and this diagnosis of Alzheimer's was given by Alois Alzheimer's in 1906 itself, and still whatever he found then in in the autopsy of the patients, there are amyloid plaques in between the cells. These are cells, and in between the cells, amyloid plaques. If you look at the picture below, Alzheimer's, inside the cells there will be neurofibrillary tangles. So in general, for laymen to easily understand, unfortunately, the membrane proteins have become, the main membrane protein have become corrupted and become bad protein. So if you're explaining somebody to about Alzheimer's disease, you just have to mention that the proteins have become bad and they have become clumpy and they got deposited in between the cells. That is toxic to the cell membranes and the connections. And there's one more protein inside the cell, again that has become corrupted, and the cell membrane, the whole cell structure is gone. The pillars are gone. So the cell breaks down. So there is cell death. So similarly, hundreds and thousands and lakhs of deaths, cells die, and then that area becomes dysfunctional. So unfortunately, this type of protein deposits go elsewhere. So based on the deposit, you get Alzheimer's disease. So I think I've answered your question. What causes Alzheimer's disease? So these bad protein deposits cause Alzheimer's disease. Unfortunately, there's no way of finding the exact method where we can stop this corruption, corrupting going on. And there is a lot of what do you call studies on trying to find some antibodies or vaccines. When you say antibodies, vaccines, unfortunately they have worked, some of them work, but unfortunately they also release some of the inflammatory chemicals, and that caused further damage to the brain. So the trials are going on. So right now all over the world, there's billions and billions of pounds and dollars have been put. In fact, there was a G8 summit in London in 2013, I think, if I remember right. G8 summit on dementia. So imagine the difficulty the world is going through in next few years or so. A lot of work is going on. So this is what it is. So bad protein deposit in the brain that spreads. Right. Okay. When does the actual deposit in the brain starts? It may start, we don't know, about 40, 45, 50, we don't know. So at some point at, before 60, we can see this blue line. So there is a definite change in its course. The yellow, the yellow that follows, the yellow line, that is the normal, the course of normal age-related memory loss. But you look at the blue line is the one that there is a definite change. You can put a round and say there's definite change. But when do we identify? I put a circle there, purple circle. That's where people come and people get their themselves assessed and things like that. So we may miss that blue line, what we call as mild cognitive impairment, where we are not sure, whether it's going to go to yellow or we go to towards the red. Once diagnosis is done, the Alzheimer's diagnosis is done, it's more or less, it's unfortunately progressive, and this is gradual decline. So some decline in 3 to 5 years, some decline in about 10 to 15 years. So we don't know, we can't tell, but their family history, if it says 5 years, then it might be 5 years only. So for some people it's 20 years, up to 20 years, so we don't know. So that's so something that we need to keep an eye on them. Basically, this is what it is. That is a normal course. There is short-term memory loss. So you can see this. These are the parts of the brain wherever the protein deposits are occurring. You see the symptom related to that. So initially it's in the temporal lobe, which means it's back of the ears or inside the ear, close to the lobular area or the ear area, the ear area. So which means that is temporal lobe. And whenever deposits occur, you have difficulty in short-term memory. When it spreads, you have language and thought processing. When it spreads to the front of the brain, you have judgment problems and other things. When it spreads to the top of the brain and the back of the brain, then you see hallucinations and other things, and problem with sensations and things like that. So the symptom is related to where the deposit is. So unfortunately, there's no one simple scan that we can do. But recently, there is something called as amyloid PET imaging that has come through, and we are using it, and not so regularly, but not on a routine practice. And that is showing where the deposits might be. More and more deposits might be. So based on that, we'll also know what is the stage of the illness. So I won't go to any cases. Okay. So what are the factors involved? So there could be traumatic brain injury, midlife obesity. All the risk factors that related to heart disease are included in as risk factors for dementia. Midlife obesity, midlife hypertension, means high blood pressure, smoking, diabetes. Smoking, they used to tell that it might be helpful, but no clear research has shown that it's going to be helpful. So we still include this under this. Diabetes, yes, uncontrolled diabetes especially. So whenever somebody is getting diagnosed with diabetes, they need to have their blood sugar checked regularly and monitor, and regular exercise and things like that. History of depression, repeated depression can lead to early onset of dementia. Not everybody, but chances are there. Sleep disturbances, sleep helps. So everybody forms amyloid proteins in the brain. It doesn't get corrupted in everyone. So everyone has the ability to shred it off and push it out, and then it gets out of the body. Then sleep disturbances. So it's important that people get enough sleep, and so they that also helps in shredding off some of the amyloid. Years of formal education, physical activity, Mediterranean diet, cognitive training. Mediterranean diet includes a lot of these nuts and things. Cognitive training. So after 60, it's better to be active. Not just because you are retired doesn't mean that you need to be very inactive. Get a paper in the morning, read the newspaper, look at the date, look at the time, watch one good news channel, which is neutral, nice news channel, understand the current affairs, and look at your albums, and go into the your past, and discuss about your past with your relatives and things like that. And so moderate alcohol consumption, not heavy alcohol consumption, social engagement, they all help. Social engagement is the topic that we are dealing with today. Social engagement is such an important thing that we need to focus on. So looking at these people, baby boomers, we call them, those who were born between 1945 to 1964, many were actually homemaker women, and work was their primary goal till retirement. Their daily routine was well defined because most of them worked. Their main aim was education for their kids, job for their kids, marriage for their kids. And once they have done, they feel that they have reached the goal, and that's it. And many people were very happy if they completed these tasks before the age of 65, so that they feel they are retired, they have done their job in their life. What they didn't know, and the choice of type of employment was not, they had less control. Many people, in fact, told us that they were not satisfied with the job what they did, but they were happy that they're able to run the house. But this is compared to the recent generation where they're choosy. Economic migration, job transfers were common. Retirement brought big change in their life. and they didn't modify accordingly. So these are the aspects we need to look at. And they thought they only going to live till maybe 60, 65 or 70, but they did not know that many of them are going to live till 90 or 95, 100 even. I'm seeing a patient 101 years of age, and she's fine. She's very active. So many didn't know that they're going to live long, and they didn't plan. So without planning, they are running their days without schedule. So what is my advice to them is they need to be looking after their heart, the same risk factors, whatever they need to look, they're going to look after for their heart. It's the same thing. They need to be physically active. They need to follow a healthy diet. They need to challenge their brain, Sudoku, crosswords, puzzles, and puzzles and things like that. They need to challenge. They need to use their brain. They need to talk with friends. They need to have debate, even if it's political heated debate. I won't say get into too much emotional. Without getting too much emotional, they need to still have a debate. The debate is very important. That is a tonic for the brain. And enjoy the social activity. Social activity is something that, again, we are coming back. Use it or lose it. So whatever the area of the brain you're going to use it, they're going to remain. The ones that you're not going to use, likely to share, fade away at the background, to the background. So what are the challenges that caregivers face during festive season, and what could be done to make festival more inclusive for persons with cognitive impairment? I'll take this one first. Okay. I'll unshare now. So I'll take these two. Yeah. So first of all, coming to the main topic, which is festivals. So I have been to Nightingale's residential care in Bangalore, which is one of the largest in India, which has got about 70-80% of them are having dementia. They have got about 80 to 90 patients there, and they are regularly having all the they have the schedule laid out. So what do they do? What time they all wake up, and what time they get dressed and washed and dressed, and they come out there's some sun. You have seen Dr. Jayashree. So they try and get into the sun, and their caregivers help them to eat if they are unable to eat, and they start playing music, and they all get involved in some social gathering, and they look at each other. People can, even though they don't communicate as such, even sitting next to somebody and feeling connected is also a good thing. And some people do yoga and things like that. There could be bhajans and things like that. And coming back to each of the festival, like for Ganesha, there's Dasara, there's Diwali, then you have Christmas coming up. So for each of the festival, they start planning in advance. I'm unable to talk to the one CEO of this Prabhudalaya old age home, where she's extremely busy because of this festive season, where they all plan and they need to make all the arrangements. So I'm not able to get hold of those people. Caregivers also I'm not able to get hold of. They're extremely busy. So what they make it a point that they start having competitions for let's say, for example, for Ganesha, they ask people if you can draw Ganesha, and and then they display it, and then they ask people to what kind of how do you want to celebrate this, and then based on that they start planning, and then they they bring the murti, and then they have puja, they let somebody, and there are various conflicts also happen during that time. Like, for example, I can't see that bindi properly there, so that you need to put that that properly, so kumkum, that you have to put it properly. You cannot put it there. So people have their own style. So they all get involved and they celebrate, and there is sense of joy, and there is sense of celebration happening, and the whole atmosphere is brightened up. So the flowers and things like that. So that brings in some kind of memories, bring back their memories from the past, especially when you start having bhajans and ask them to get involved in bhajans and kirtans and things like that. So they try to connect themselves of the past experiences which they had many years ago. Because in what you need to know in Alzheimer's disease is, in the early stage and even later stage, the long term memory is the last one to go. So you still have many of the long term memories still present in them. So for example, when did they get married, where did they get married, how was the situation around that time, and how did they meet this groom or bride, then all that. So from the past they can relate, and where they do the schooling, and how did they enjoy their childhood. And many can in fact try and tell you if you can sit and listen to them. So that brings in what we call as reminiscence. So remembering the past and making them active, and telling them their make them into put them into group and ask them to discuss, and then they get involved. This is part of actually what we call as one of the modules of cognitive stimulation therapy actually. So you need to make people talk about their past. How did they celebrate? So one of the tasks that is you give them a task saying that now it's somebody's birthday coming up. So you will be in charge. Now how will you go about? So and they're given a board if they want, and they need to explain how they plan. So this stimulates the planning. So planning is another cognitive task. So you make them get involved in these things, and so music again triggers their past memories. Music again, even at very late stages, it apparently it stimulates, and music has got the capacity to bring back older memories also. So even if it's some of it is lost, if you can't remember where exactly what you listen to that, but it triggers some kind of the good times you had in the past. So so music, especially the ones that so people like the music, especially they were listening in the past, like 20-30 years ago, like MS Subbulakshmi's Suprabhata, and typically those kind of older ones, not the ones, the new ones, but they want to listen to the old ones, so that it triggers them memories for them. So the whole atmosphere in the care home is designed, decorated, there's positive energy, celebration, there's wishing going across, and everybody tries to even have they want to wear a nice clothing, and the sweets exchange, not necessarily sweet, but some kind of feast in terms of food and prasadam and all that. So that's something is done. And again, if you look at Christmas time, again they are very busy. Santa, they don't miss this also. They have the Christmas tree, and they try and have presents. Some of them have the presents and all that, and they wish, and they bring back old memories. So this is something which is regularly conducted, and they look forward to the next festival when you do this. And once you enjoy, they look forward to the next festival. So this is how the cycle repeats, and they keep looking forward to the next festival. So next one is Sankranti coming up, so they have plans for that, and there may be a different team who might be involved and interested in conducting this and those kind of things. If you come back to the caregivers part, again, caregivers should not be left behind, because caregivers burnout, getting stressed is very common. So caregivers are very important in these aspects. So there are competitions for caregivers during this time, at least once a year, so like Deepavali time, separately for them. And so they get involved. They also, try and do Rangoli and competitions, and they get involved in drawing, and they also get involved in singing competitions or something. So they are also encouraged to participate. And there's an atmosphere wherein every day is a celebration. Those 9 days of Dasara or 3 days of Diwali. So almost every day. So Christmas, I think it goes on for a week. I think Christmas again. So there is a sense of people getting excited, looking forward, colors everywhere, and that stimulates the whole atmosphere. Stimulates them. So it reduces the what do you call loneliness, feelings of loneliness, past memories. But if they are severely impaired, if they're in bed, it's very difficult to bring them out and get them involved. It's hard. But wherever they are, they can still listen to the music, and they can still have their separate music in their rooms, and even their rooms can be decorated, and they may have visitors even. So so visitors, again, family members visiting, or let's imagine the person is at home also, relatives visiting around that time, celebrating the way normally they do. There's no special change in the style of celebrating anything. Whatever they probably did 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it's the same thing, the same style, almost same style. They can do it. So if they had cakes, they can have cakes. If they have typical style of a mantapam for Ganesha, or Dasara Lakshmi for Diwali, and Saraswati for Dasara, then you have that same idol, same style, same way how you did, how they did 10 to 15 years ago, or 20 years ago rather. And it's the same style, and they all come and try to bring back the same style, because just because we are modern doesn't mean that we need to change, because these will bring back their old memories, and this will trigger and stimulates them, and their behavior comes down, their behavioral problems come down, and they may have a good night's sleep. That improves their digestive system. When they are calm and relaxed, improves. So there is all positive attitude, and their mood improves. Their overall behavior improves. So Dr. Yashri, yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Dr. Vijay, for that really succinct presentation. I mean, you've highlighted on various aspects, right from what is dementia, the different types, the kind of symptoms that we commonly see with it, the way in which we assess for dementia, and the kind of the different kind of methods. And I think some of the images that you showed are also very informative for people who have joined us and are listening in today. And then you shared a lot about your experiences of working with patients in care homes, and how various festivals and holidays in the care homes. This is something, I mean, I think there were many things that you spoke about that we also see during our work at Samvedna. We also find that various festivals and holiday times are important periods to recreate certain memories with it's an opportunity really for loved ones to recreate experiences, engage with their family member who may have dementia, or in other circumstances feel fairly isolated. And I just want to invite one of our some of our care specialists to actually share some of the experiences and their inputs of what they've been doing with some of the people that we've been working with. Prior to the pandemic, we used to have a lot of events to celebrate all different kinds of festivals regularly at our activity center. And we're really hoping that these are things that we can pick up with the same speed again once the pandemic settles down. So we're really looking forward to that as well. But could I just request to put on your camera and maybe unmute yourself and share some of your experiences? And Gina, if you could also highlight for people who are listening in, what you think are some really important pointers. Gina, or otherwise, if I request you to share your thoughts.
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me? Sorry, I don't think I'll be able to start my video due to bandwidth. Hello.
Sure, Kina, why don't you
Um,
go ahead?
yeah, hi. Sorry, I was saying I don't think I'll be able to start my video due to bandwidth issues. So like my mom said, we have been doing a lot of work with dementia patients, and it's Christmas time. So all the places and all the homes are just decorated for the Christmas Eve. The difficulty I think a lot of the people get is to start planning these celebrations. What happens if it's a 25th of December, like the tree starts getting up maybe a week before, or some people put it on 24th. What that does is that confuses the individual with dementia. So the idea is to start planning a week or more than week before and share with your loved one that, this event is coming up. So even if it's Christmas or it's Diwali, maybe put up those lights a week or 2 weeks prior to than you usually would. And also, let's not have any sudden changes of plan. So for example, if usually you would sit in and have a Christmas dinner, so prefer that to going out. So that is very important. So your plan is very concrete, it's very summarized, and the individual diagnosed with dementia and everybody that's going to visit know that this is going to be the plan. So the decoration process, similarly, the decoration process needs to start early. You have to give your loved one time to just get comfortable and settle down with the changes that are happening. Maybe they'll come and ask you, why is this tree up? It's September right now. So you have to tell them, no, the tree is up because it's going to be Christmas in a few days. So you have to let them get comfortable with the environment, the changes. Dementia patients usually get more agitated or irritated if there are too many changes. So you have to let them get used to it. It's also important that when you're planning for all of these festivities, you have to keep their favorite or best activity in the mind. So for example, if they're saying their favorite activity is to play cards. So while having these dinners, keep that activity in there so they are able to come and sit during these dinners knowing that their favorite activity is going to be there. So also it's very like during the festivals, it's very important that the routine gets disturbed. So people might be coming in, people might be visiting in, or something else might be happening. So it's very important that the individual who are diagnosed with dementia, their routines are kept very familiar. So you need to have meals at the same time you usually would. You have to keep your surrounding familiar. If you're making changes in their room, ensure that they're aware that these changes are happening. Do not take objects and keep them anywhere else. Like if it's a room that's important to them, keep that similarly that way. Like doctor said, you can play the songs. So one of our clients, one of the other care specialists was sharing that the Christmas carols are his favorite. So his mood instantly, he was very elated to know that we can also sing Christmas carols. And he's oriented to the month just because he knows it's Christmas. So festivals are a very great time to help you with orientation, to help you with managing the mood, also engaging these individual diagnosed with dementia in activities, because this is something that they have been enjoying for a very few years. It is just that you have to be very patient and very slow in introducing these festivals to them. They might not be as eager as they were a few years ago, but they will show same enthusiasm if you take things very slowly. I think
Thank you. I would encourage everyone to share any questions that they may have for Dr. Vijay in the chat. I think someone has already shared some experiences that they've been having with a loved one who has dementia, and maybe I could just about
Jayeshi,
changes in behaviors, and maybe I could ask
yeah.
you, Dr. Vijay, to respond to that, and then maybe Sonam, I could turn back to you and ask you with people who have dementia and to deal with some of these things. Dr. Vijay.
Yeah. So what I missed here is another important thing. So whenever somebody, we can't expect or we can't have or we can't expect all the people to have a good memory of all the festivals in the past. So they may relate to something, even they may have had a bad experience around that time. For example, Christmas time, or in the December month, it means December month, and they may have lost a friend or a sibling, or so we need to also keep that in mind, or their parents, even so their parents. So we need to know these things. So some of these festivals can also bring back their old bad memories also. So how do we tackle? So or there's a likelihood that such numbers may be small, so we need to still know from their families, and then we try and plan around something about it. So if somebody is crying, we don't know if that particular month or particular recent experience is related to bad memories, so whatever. So some things trigger bad memories also, we need to know. So make a summarized plan before. Yeah, somebody has mentioned here, make a summarized plan before 1 week of the festival and share with your loved one. Avoid making sudden plans or changes in plans. So they may not remember, they may not know the number of days left. So what I would recommend in care homes or at home even, they should have a big calendar, if possible, the one that you can tear off, that big, which says this is the date today, this is the month, this is the year, and even a big clock. And even if it's digital clock, even better. So they need to know, they need to get oriented easily, and they need to be repeatedly reoriented to the surroundings. So how many days left, even they can have an indication. So make it easy for them. So you do not have to you should not assume that they will know how many days left and things like that. So, and they may be shy to ask you that question, because some people may appreciate that they may not remember the dates, so they may not ask. So you make it easy for them and help them. So there's somebody, Mr. Sumit Gupta, who has written, my mom has dementia. From last 2 days, she gets mood swing, as saying anything at any moment, become tough to handle, and she starts crying at any point, become normal after some time. And once we give time to her or play her interest shows on TV, to touch base. So the thing is here, the most important thing for any elderly person, even for post-retired people, is engaging their day, scheduling their day, activity scheduling whole day. So whenever actually if somebody is admitted to a care home, half the problem is solved when they are brought into a routine, a kind of a routine, like what time you get out of a bed, what time you know what is happening, and what time you're going to have breakfast, and what time you're going to have your bath, and then what time you do what. So when there is scheduling, it reduces half their problems, actually, what we have noticed. So similarly at home, they need to have an activity. You can't expect an elderly person to sit in the corner just to be like meditating, sitting and meditating. So they need to have activities, and this is something that they try and choose. If they can't choose, you help them to choose. So they need to be engaged, and it also depends on what their hobbies are, where in the past, what their favorite things are. So you can make a list, and then you can start offering one after another. Unfortunately, caregiving is very difficult task. It's caregivers training is lacking. NIMHANS is coming up with some caregivers training in future. So this is where we try and recommend that the caregiving is best, if wherever possible, caregiving is best done by trained caregivers, and you get on with your work and you spend time, you enjoy with your loved one, elderly person, and then let the caregiving part is taken care of by somebody. If you can do it along with your work, that's stressful, but you need to be trained. So that is something you need to understand. So it's a task. It's not an easy task. It can burn you out. So that's something I can suggest. And here we don't know. See, start crying at suddenly starts crying. So there's something called as emotional lability. This is a word we regularly use. So this is probably the area of the brain which regulates the emotion in the brain, and that area of the brain may have started to have the deposits now, which regulates the emotions. So then you can start having these kind of variations in their mood or emotions. So what to do? So we probably think of considering medications in that case, or have activity schedule. So then we try and help them focus on something interesting, and they get involved. Then my father has dementia and can cry and start shouting even on slightest of things which he don't like. There are n number of reasons why somebody can get agitated. A simple constipation, simple pain, toothache, which never been noticed. Some people may have even difficulty in swallowing because there could be, if somebody has a history of diabetes or uncontrolled diabetes or something else, they can be fungal. They can have fungal infection which goes unnoticed. So or they can have some problem with their private parts. Nobody has examined. Even they have not seen a doctor for many months. So we don't know what is the cause, and even somebody may have difficulty in regulating the sounds. So for you and me, the amount of sound we are hearing, it can go up to into 10 times for somebody because of their problem with their hearing, some kind of hearing pathology. So it can magnify. So if it magnifies, if 2 or 3 sounds are happening in some place, because that is magnifying, they become irritated. They're unable to express, and sometimes because they are unable to get words in their mouth, they become frustrated, they get angry. So there are n number of reasons. So we don't know. We need to slowly assess everything. So for this reason, so constipation, not using the toilet appropriately, or pain during urinating. So we don't know whether these are occurring, and also pain anywhere in the body. So, or not been sleeping well at night. So we don't know. So we need to assess appropriately.
Right.
So my mom has dementia since about 2 years, and is totally non-functional in bed since August. But suddenly, since about a month, I feel she has started talking sense and also identifying us properly. Is this a sign of improvement? Well, so what it tells is there was some reversible kind of pathology was also there along with the underlying dementia process. That reversible part has probably improved. I don't know if it's thyroid, or if it's B12 deficiency, or is depression, or something else. There is an additional, I'm talking about additional. I don't know about the underlying memory problem, dementia occurring there. That could be there. On top of it, there could be another one, or it could be uncontrolled diabetes, or uncontrolled, or sodium levels going up and down, and those kind of things might have caused what we call as delirium around that time. That might have improved, and that is the reason why there is you can see some kind of improvement. But there is underlying dementia that is going on, that is progressive. So this probably can explain that thing. He has uncontrolled diabetes. Yeah, so yeah, I missed that. He has uncontrolled, and if I compel him to go for walking, sometimes he starts fighting. No, it's very difficult to the way somebody cannot make you do things you don't want. You have to do the same way to your parents, because you are the you are the son or daughter of the same person. So you should understand the way it's your personality also. So if it's similar, so don't argue with them. Whatever you don't like, they also may not like. So my father has forgot his wife and kids. Also, he just thinks we just care for him. We are his friends. That's okay. So as you know, identification, the area in the brain that is related to identification and knowing the relationship has gone, but there is some emotional touch will be there. Looking at you, you can see the brightness in the face. That itself is enough. So what you can't make it reverse, what you can't reverse, you can't reverse. So you can't make them identify you. So don't worry about it. So make them happy, make them relaxed, and make them enjoy their life, and try and improve their quality of life, as well as yours. So both should improve. Yeah. Over to you, Jayshree.
Thank you, Dr. Vijay. I think there's just a couple of things that I also wanted to highlight from that. I mean, as you are talking about the cognitive deterioration, often what we see see problems, challenging behaviors that are a result of the brain, certain brain areas where you were describing how the protein deposits are there, and there is a degeneration in these areas, and that results in some certain symptoms. But also, I think as caregivers and family members, what's very important to remember is that this impacts the way that a person can express themselves. And sometimes, because there is a sort of reverse role, these are our parents, these are our older family members who've cared for us earlier. It's difficult to see somebody who was so functional, doing so well, or become dependent, or not managing, not understanding things that they were able to before. And it increases the frustration and the amongst in the caregiver also. So periods of agitation, irritability may be a way that a person with dementia is trying to communicate something that we're not able to understand. And it's almost like when there is a small child, an absolutely small baby who doesn't have a language, they cry in different ways, and slowly a mother is able to understand what that particular cry means. In some ways, as caregivers, we have to try to rule out all the other things that may be causing some sort of pain, discomfort, and try to really understand what is it that the person with dementia may be trying to communicate. So it requires us to, as caregivers, to think of it a little differently. I just wanted to turn to Sonam. She's one of our care specialists. Sonam, could you share some of your experiences also in terms of how you've been working with some of the people living with dementia, and some of the things that you've been doing to celebrate holidays, festivals, and relieve stress of you?
Okay, sure. So as Dr. Vijay was mentioning, it's very important to keep the dementia patients engaged while we are, planning for the festivals. And it's also, and as Dina was mentioning, it's also important to keep their routine in place. But it would help if we can engage the dementia patients in the preparations. So for example, if you're putting up a treat, so you can ask them, if they can't do it, you can ask them to choose between the two items that you would like to put for decorations, right? You can ask for the color of the lights they want, where do they want the tree. So making them feel like that whatever they have to say, jo bhi unka decision hai, it matters. It would also make them feel involved, right? In the same way, if you plan to have guests over, you can ask them ki, acha, kis ko bulana hai, kis ko nahi bulana hai, and what can be served to the guests, right? So that is something that will keep them involved in the entire process. At the same time, festivals like Dr. Vijay was mentioning can also bring out some old memories, some bad memories as well. So it's important to keep the tradition in mind, in the sense that what they used to do, like they might used to watch a movie, so you can watch that movie together, or play games, or play a game of rummy. So I have a client who just keeps on mentioning that they used to have Christmas and New Year parties, and they used to play rummy. So even though they don't remember now how to play rummy, they just recollect those memories ki हाँ हम ऐसे खेला करते थे, बहुत सारे लोग आते थे, parties होती थी. So we can just talk about those memories even though वो अब वो चीज नहीं कर पा रहे हैं. And in the same way, just Dr. Vijay mentioned kar rahe the ki you can go through family photos, right? That would be good. You can go through old Christmas pictures. And this is applicable to all other festivals as well, like Holi, Diwali, and all other things, and even New Year. And again, in the same way, if you're trying to engage them and you need to get some things for the Christmas decorations, or presents for someone, so and if you want to, you can also take them out with you and help you decide ki kiske liye kya lena hai and all those gifts. But make sure that these outings are brief, so that they don't get overstimulated or confused, and just making them feel that whatever they have to say matters. And the same way, when it comes to like inviting people over or socialization, ask people to come not all at once, but maybe in a staggered way, so that they don't feel overly stimulated. And in the same way, and if there are a lot of people and you can't control, then there should be a safe place for them to retract to, which is, free from noise, which has things which offers them comfort. So so they won't feel overly stimulated, and the same way they will feel that there is still some safety. So that is what I wanted to add.
Jayashree, you're frozen.
Sorry, I
3.
think some bandwidth issues. Thank you so much, Sonam. If there are any further questions, I'm of the time, I'd request you to please type them quickly into the chat. And could I also maybe ask people who are caregivers here to share certain things that they think are useful or they have found useful whilst celebrating different festivals with their loved ones who have dementia. I know a couple of things that I've seen are very useful are, just maybe even reviewing old photographs together. And I think we've spoken about this because one of the things that happens in dementia is that the memories that the newer learning gets, but the older memories are lost later. So a person may be able to remember things from their childhood or early on in their married years relatively much better. And I know one of the participants was mentioning that they're not able to recognize the children. So the family is therefore interacting with them as though they are friends. This is, although it's very disturbing as a family member to see this is quite common, and it's a change that maybe a family member has to make. It's something we have to accept because we cannot change it. But sometimes there may be a particular friend whom the person is referring to you as. It's like you can try and understand more about the experiences that the person living with dementia has and what they remember, and reviewing photographs of previous celebrations, previous festivities, listening to songs related to that particular festival. It could be particular bhajans, it could be particular, during Christmas, it could be carols, it could be anything. Like going back to the traditions that you used to follow as a family are also things that a person may enjoy and be able to relate with and identify more easily. And this will help them feel more positive. So these are just some things that a person can do. And I can see specialists is putting in a couple of tips in the chat, things that Ravina is sharing some tips on the chat with everyone. So you can just take a look at some of these. These are things that we found are very useful when we interact with people during these festival times, and we help families celebrate festivals together. Sorry, Dr. Vijay, I'm just going to check if there are a couple of questions. Yes.
Prabha Gautam from Prabha Gautam. He tried to hide and pack whichever things he has nearby and feel everyone want to steal items from him. My father has hallucinations and feels somebody going to kill him. How to handle such situation? So I think, like I said earlier, it's an area of the brain, maybe parietal lobe or not top of the brain or the back of the brain. That area might have been affected, and that is affecting their regulation in terms of, through the 5 senses, what we have, the sense organs we have, the information reaches the brain. It gets processed in the brain, and that gives us the image of the surrounding. So if you can imagine what might be happening, the deposits are occurring in that area, which is affecting the regulation. So without any stimulus, the person might be seeing something or hearing something or tasting something or whatever. So in which case it's very difficult to convince them, because for them it's real. For you it's not real. For them it's real world. That's a reality for them. So it's very difficult to convince it. So we will probably try medications in which case. So go and see a psychiatrist. So maybe Dr. Jayashree can arrange a psychiatrist. Dr. Meena Chandra is there in Delhi. She's a geriatric psychiatrist. So Dr. Jayashree can signpost accordingly, I think. So not much can be done. You can't convince. You don't, get into that. Try and distract if possible. Until then, until you are seeing a psychiatrist and start these medications. Of course, medication cannot just be started for an elderly person because they're sensitive to all medications. So you need to be very careful. So they'll decide. They'll prescribe you medication. So until then, you keep distracting and putting on a schedule so that they get distracted from these distractions and hallucinations. And there might be a sense of also a sense of loss for not being able to perform in the same way. Yeah, this loss can be validated rather than dismissed. Avoid fragile decorations. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so I think I've answered.
Thank you, Dr. Vijay. I think as Dr. Vijay was mentioning that this is, there are certain specific behavioral challenges which may require more detailed assessment and evaluation before we can see what is the best possible intervention approach. I think it's important to reach out to a professional for help if you are struggling to provide care. At Samvedna, we do have various psychiatrists, neurologists empaneled with us, provide a caregiver enablement program where we help caregivers identify what may be some of the factors that contribute to certain challenging behaviors, and we, the care specialists, work with caregivers to help them understand how to provide better care. So do feel free to reach out to us if you require any sort of help and support as well. So I think this has been a very interesting session. We've spoken about things right from the signs, symptoms of dementia. We've touched upon some of the various challenging behaviors and what we could do to address these. And we've also discussed how to celebrate holidays, festivals with your loved one who has dementia. I think it's important to remember that just because a person has dementia, it doesn't mean that they're not able to feel, or even if they're not able to comprehend or fully understand things the way they used to earlier, by participating in celebrations. So yes, we may have to change the way that some things that you were celebrating, maybe the role that they were playing in celebrations from previously. Previously, maybe this person, your loved one, may have been taking on a very active role in planning a celebration, planning what to do, how to go about the exact, what to do on that particular festival day. Now, maybe someone else has to take on that role. But we definitely must continue to involve them in the celebration in whatever way they can, in whatever way helps them to feel involved, and whatever way helps them to draw pleasure from being a part of the various festivities. And this goes, in any sort of celebration or festival. So with that, I'd like to really thank Dr. Vijay for sharing his insights and being with us today to address the queries as our guest speaker for this Dementia Support Group meeting. This is the last meeting of this year, and we look forward to having more meetings in the coming year. Starting from January, we will be having other Dementia Support Group meetings, so do watch out for those. And any final?
Yeah, thanks, Jayashree, for organizing this. When you put that title to me, even I wasn't sure what we could discuss. So I thought Was it so important? Now, hindsight, yes, it is very important, and it's something that needs to be discussed, so that people are also aware that it is the important part in improving the quality of life. So it is something that should not be ignored. Yeah, all festivals must be celebrated with whatever the shortcomings that may be expected or difficulties that may be faced, still be tried, attempted. So yeah, okay. With this, I conclude. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vijay, and a great thanks to everyone who's joined us today for the Dementia Support Group meeting, and also very Merry Christmas and best wishes for the new year to everyone who's listening in. So thank you so much. Thank you.